And we're turning to the whole issue of accountability with Denise Turner, our media research doyen. She's currently CEO of Root, one of our JICs, Joint Industry Committees, and she has been leading this segment of Who Cares measurement work group. And I'm going to hand over to you, Denise. Welcome, Denise.
We have a little bit of technical stuff because there's a table and chair coming onto stage. So I'm going to start off with why I care, and then I'm going to give you a brief introduction. Sorry, yes. Oh, yes, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? So this is me, obviously, as you can see. So it's a bit sort of daunting saying this in front of Sir John Hegarty, but why I care is because on Monday the 15th of July, I walked into the offices of Bartlebogle Hegarty on Great Pulteney Street in Soho, and it started my first job as a media research assistant. I was immediately captivated by the world of advertising and by the possibilities that opened up for brands and people. But one event is imprinted on my memory, which I cannot get out of my head, which is less than a month into my career, John McCarthy, who'd been held captive in Lebanon for 5 years, was freed. And BBH had been working pro bono on his release. On the 8th of August, 1991, the whole of Great Pulteney Street had yellow ribbons the whole way down the street, from every window. Spine-tingling moments, and there are lots of those spine-tingling moments, but that's why I care about what we do, because we're a force for good. But equally, we're a force for good for, there's a chap at Clark's Shoes, I think he's retired now, but he is a world expert on when people's bones form. Children's bones don't form properly till they're 16 in their feet, so it's why you need to care, and why I love those stories from Starling and the stories we've heard today about we need to really understand why we do what we do matters. Nobody's going to die if we do the wrong thing, but actually we can make a difference. So that's why I care. And these stories sort of constantly remind me why I care. I have another story which I probably haven't got time to tell, but I once did a project for East Coast Trains, now LNER. We got the whole of the finance and the commercial team to come to London by plane, train or automobile. And there was a chap in the Insight team who was afraid of flying. And he said, I'm going to fly. I went, oh, please don't. But he did a course in like being sort of taking his fear away. And actually it's transformed his life. He wouldn't even go on his honeymoon on a plane. So that's why I care. So I have probably challenged my measurement and accountability work stream. I think, can you stand up actually, all of you who are on my work stream? There's some who are not here because they're in Canada or Florida or wherever, or working, or not well. But what I think, the thing I'll do before they come up on stage, and you'll see what we're going to do, the principles of measurement and accountability have not changed, the practices have. So that's what we've got to remember. The world hasn't shifted at all, really. And so I've got a book here, which is called the Fort Wayne Survey, which was done in 1946 in Indiana in the States, and it's about outdoor measurement. I'll show it to you afterwards, over drinks if you like, but it's typed up, but the principles are the same. It's still about who sees what, who hears what, who does what. Those things don't change, it's just how we do them that change. It's really interesting because this week, the other thing that I will do before I introduce my work stream is that my daughter is doing work experience, and she talked to me about the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is you might just get things wrong. Disinformation is when you intentionally mislead. So I think we need to be really careful about those differences and those definitions. I think the one thing is that nobody really wants to look under the bonnet, but education is really important. It's really important that the younger people in our industry really understand, where do these numbers come from? What happens with them? So understanding advertising's contribution. You know, I used to work, I worked in media agencies for 25 years, and I would talk to the CFO at a finance client and say, okay, this is where the numbers come from. You can be 92% certain, or you can be 95% certain. And I think that's the thing that we need to give people confidence to do, to understand where the numbers, because nothing's perfect in this world, okay? So what we need to make sure is that we do have data that we can trust, so trust coming up again, data we can trust. And also it's really being clear, and hopefully it'll come across in what we're about to do. It's definitions that are really clear. So I'd like to thank my Workstream for their energy, their enthusiasm and engagement in their process. And more importantly, I'd like to thank them for their indulging me in my ideas for the session. So I've talked about principles and practices I've talked about. Now, we all love, if you work in measurement and accountability, you love it, you have to. But I wanted a different way of representing what we're going to do. So today is the world premiere of a short play. As Ian Dowds told me earlier, it's the world premiere for them as well. So let's see how we go. And I have form in this. So this is me. I wrote and produced a pantomime about 30 years ago, and I was the fairly good mother. But I've got a very small part today. I would say that actually most of you in the room will know Richard Eyre. He was one of the Ugly Sisters. So let me introduce you, first of all, to our marketing manager, Luca, he's feeling a bit frazzled about life. Do you want to grab the microphone?
I can.
Or we can project, or is it easier if he grabs the microphone? Microphone, fine. If you grab one of the microphones.
Let me just sit on my desk. It work? Yeah, thank you. Never done this before, by the way.
They're all a bit nervous, so please be kind to them. So, Luca, what's the problem?
My campaign hasn't worked. It's been a disaster.
Why hasn't it worked?
Well, that's the problem. I don't really know. I feel like I'm back in school doing an exam and my mind has gone blank.
Is that why you're sitting at a school desk?
I think so.
I think you might need some marketing therapy. Let me find someone to help.
So, tell me what's the matter.
Well, my campaign has not worked. It's been disastrous.
How do you know it hasn't worked?
Well, sales are down and probably going to be fired.
Now, it can't be as bad as all that. Let's go back to the beginning. I've got some people who can help.
Suspend your disbelief. I am a people person for the purposes of the next 2 minutes.
Hello, people person.
So let's talk about people. Do you know how many of your target group, actual people, you reached with your campaign?
I don't know about people. All I know is that we bought 12 million impressions.
Unfortunately, my friend, it's not that simple. After all, it's people, not impressions, that buy products. And from the very start, we need to understand how many people could be exposed and pay attention to our advertising, and where and how we can best find those individuals.
What do you mean? Surely that all happens automatically, right?
Well, if you listen to the noise, you might think that to be true. But it's important to understand the metrics. For example, impressions are counted in different ways and count many different things. Different media channels measure things differently. So what might sound the same is in fact different. And of course, you also need to understand how much of your campaign actually reached the target audience that you had originally planned to communicate with.
Gosh, that sounds complicated, difficult and a bit confusing.
Well, you're a simple lad, but yes and no. Measurement methods vary, but fundamentally, if you don't have robust, reliable, and accountable inputs from the very start, inputs based on real people, not devices or accounts, and that are transparent from all sides, you might as well pack up and go home. Good luck, my friend.
Thank you.
I guess we can see those who've got ANDRAM training. How are you doing? Did that help?
A little bit. I know now that measuring people is vital. That's audience measurement, isn't it?
Exactly right.
Okay, so that's audience measurement, but is it measuring content or advertising or both?
That's a very good question.
Well, it strikes me that I need to be clear on definitions. What are we measuring and why? Is it devices? Is it people? At the end of the day, devices buy nothing without people. Only people can contribute to campaign outcomes.
Indeed. Are you counting the target audience actually exposed to Coronation Street, the show, or to the ad breaks that are contained within it?
So what's next then?
Next is the next person.
Afternoon, Luca. Anthony, I look after campaign measurement. So,
Hi, Anthony.
what did you actually want to do or happen? What did you actually want to do or happen as a result of the campaign?
That's a good question. I mean, I know we want to sell more stuff, but our products are expensive and bought infrequently.
Now, that's interesting. I mean, there is no one-size-fits-all, but I think it's fair to say that you probably need to think about intermediate measures along here. I mean, how many of your target audience did they pay attention to your advertising? Did their creative message resonate with them? Did they feel warmer? Did they trust the brand more? Are they more positive towards the brand? I mean, surely you've got information on those facts. I mean, what about shedding some light on sort of generic outcomes? I mean, did people go to your website as a result of your campaign, or go to a store and do something as a result?
That's interesting. I'm not sure I have those numbers.
Neil.
So how are you feeling now? How's it going?
Well, I've got a better handle on meaningful audience measurement and the difference between content and advertising measurement. And I think I sort of know what I need to do on brand measures. But my CFO really wants to know about the return on the marketing investment. What do I do about that?
The CFO, huh? I think we need some more help.
How's it going, Luca?
Well, all right.
I'm here to talk about the measurement of outcomes. So I hear your CFO has been asking you how to justify your media and advertising budget. Is that right?
Yeah, I suppose they want to know what worked and what didn't, and what do I do about it?
Well, I do know that there sounds like there's some disentangling needed here with the various input sources that you've already got. So I think we should start by maybe having a look at what those inputs are, where they come from, what the provenance is of the data, and find out what's working and what's not working for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's right. How do I understand what works so I can make better decisions next time?
Well, I agree. It is a bit confusing right now. There are different methodologies out there, and many are used by different people. You will definitely need an appropriate measurement solution for the effectiveness of your campaigns if you're going to answer that question your CFO is asking you, for sure. Maybe a good compass is to look for accountable and transparent vendors that have highest quality data that you can find. Set a high bar for the validation and the accuracy of the data. Sorry?
I can't hear you.
Okay. So I'll start again. From the top.
This is
Well, I'll go from a good compass, if that's fine. A good compass is to look for accountable, transparent vendors with best quality data sets and set a high bar for validation and accuracy of the data sets that you use. Once you start to do that, you might find that the number of the data sets that you're using all point in the same direction, so you can then maybe look at some sort of analysis and triangulation to bring it all together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Job done. Thank you.
So, Lucas, after those world-leading experts, how are you feeling now?
Yeah, a lot better. A bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you, Doc.
My pleasure.
My acting career is over.
Give them a round of applause, because I know you did. But that is just, I think it's brilliant, because it just highlights those questions. You can imagine those questions happening in meetings round London, round the UK, and globally actually as well. You know, those sorts of questions is, what are we measuring? Why? Where? How? So we've got a bit of a manifesto. So charter, manifesto, we probably need to have a think about that. But I've got, no, you don't need to see a picture of me again. But it is about education, because actually people don't have time to care about what goes under the bonnet, but they do need to care, and we need to help them to care. We need to give them the tools by which they do that. So this is not in any particular order, but we've got a bit of a manifesto, and this is something I wrote about 2 years ago, and I felt it still really resonated with me and with the measurement work stream. Measurement should be a forethought, not an afterthought. It needs to be planned at the same time as the campaign itself. You cannot do something post what's happened, because if you don't plan to measure, you can't measure it. It needs to have clarity and transparency in what's being evaluated. So our frazzled marketing manager wasn't sure whether he was measuring audience or content or both or outcomes. I did feel for him, actually, but I did write the script, so. You know, it's not to be confused with ad effectiveness, because it's, you know, I'm really clear, and I'm really being very channel neutral today, but I'm really clear that what I do at Root is about the who and the how many. That's my job, and to do that in a robust, reliable, and stable way. So if people don't encounter your message, how can they possibly respond? So the counting of what and who is a precursor to effect. It's not the effect in and of itself. Most importantly, and I think Anthony did ask me to move this up the order, but I just didn't have time, was to know that we market to people, not devices, not platforms or surfaces, because people are the ones that buy products. And, you know, hopefully that came across in our little play. So if we just collect data on one or two channels, what inputs are we missing out on? How does measurement marry the physical and the digital, for instance? And also remember that no medium or channel is an island. People don't just exist in the out-of-home world or the print world or the TV world. You know, all of these things work together. We know from the work that Les and Peter have done with the IPA data bank that, you know, the optimum number of channels is definitely more than one. It does vary depending on how you classify it. We also need to fully understand the quality of the sources of the data and why and how they've been collected. So don't expect more of those data sources than they can actually deliver. I've got a brilliant example where we were testing some sensors that we might put on the back of frames, poster frames. And we did this test. We got some sensors into the office. We put them in the office. We sort of thought, we'll just collect the data, see how easy it is to do or not easy it is to do. We did it in February. Well, in February you have Pancake Tuesday. And there was one of the particular sensors, I wouldn't name who it is, but said, so I looked at the data and I thought, that looks a bit odd. But basically what it was doing, because people were queuing up for Pancake Tuesday, and the data went bananas, and it was resetting it to a different person every minute. So really being clear, so that's, you know, in your organizations, you definitely need to have somebody who is making sense of that data. I could give you many more examples of that. It's all, and our marketing manager did say this, but it's all about triangulation. You know, no one source of data is going to be perfect. It's been collected for different reasons. But make sure that if you've got 2 or 3 things that are all pointing in the same direction, if they're pointing in the same direction, then you're probably onto a good thing. And and also use the past to inform the future. You can never predict the future, really, properly, but you can look at the learnings from the past and look at what happens in the future. And actually, I haven't added these 2, but I added 9 and 10 last night. Involve no black boxes and be wary of proxy metrics. So those intermediate metrics are good learnings and give you indications of what might happen, but actually make sure that you're not distrusting the data that you're using. And also, it's about rubbish in, rubbish out at the end of the day, isn't it? It's quality data in, quality data out. So let's not forget that, and I think that's one of the things, and I loved some of the stuff that's been talked about earlier about giving people the training and the education to be able to understand what's going on. So thank you very much, and thank you to my actors. I absolutely loved them doing that.